this time taken off by LGD.
Okay, so a couple of champions being hovered over. Of course, Azir was banned in game 2 very early on, and that is going to be the first pick this time around. So Scout going back to an old favorite, champion who's picked time and time again. Of course, when he started as a pro player, Azir was the premier mid laner around that 2015-2016 kind of mark of time. And it feels like whenever this champion is meta, Scout has always been very quick to go back towards it. It allows you to have some strong laning phase performances. It allows you to be a scaling damage carry as well. It can be quite hard to stand your ground, though, against a Maokai. It can really force you into awkward positions. So how are LNG going to round out this draft to protect the Azir enough that Scout can start putting out damage on it?
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. If you get to the late game with this Azir, with Scout piloting it as well, like that is where things get real scary for anyone that you are up against. We'll have to wait and see how things will pan out with that one. We're flying through the draft though. Same top lane once again. Zika going to be on the Renekton. Poppy in there as well. And now LGD looking to get the Varus for LPC again. The Varus, I mean, LPC didn't manage to have that much of an impact on the pick in game number 1, but we've seen the value of the pick. Like, we'll ignore game 1 of the series and say, yeah, Varus is actually just very strong.
Well, even then, LPC had a great laning phase on the Varus. It was really just the teamfight positioning where things fell apart. So now if you're LNG and you're looking at, you know, potentially an awkward bot lane situation, if you're going to ban out stuff like maybe the Ziggs loses herself to a ban as well, and something else which can lane into the Varus, and maybe you're forced to lock in an Aphelios again, LGD have themselves, once again, a decent bot lane matchup to play around with LPC's comfort champion of that Varus.
So, we'll see how this is going to go down. With the Xayah taken off the board, Varus already locked in for LGD. You could ban away the Ziggs again. That has kind of been the go-to here for LGD, is banning the Ziggs away from Gala, removing their potential weak side AD carries. And it feels like so far for LGD, the draft strategy is just get Gala on Aphelios. Put him on this AD carry that isn't going to be able to, you know, contest us early enough on in the game, and then we just bully him. We just dive, which is kind of funny, isn't it? Because I feel like Aphelios historically has been picked when you're trying to weak side bot lane.
Oh, I don't know if I'd agree with that, because when Aphelios gets to push in, he's just so disgusting. When Aphelios has been countered, it's been when he's outranged, and Varus has typically sat there and gone, well, try and lane into this. Misfortune similar as well. And Aphelios has suffered in a couple of those matters, but I suppose LPL is a little bit different, right? Where at the end of the day, if you have an LPL AD carry on Aphelios, they will always do damage at some point into the game. But they did just lose that in this second game. So I'd be wondering whether LNG are bold enough to go towards that again, considering they couldn't make it work in game 2.
We'll see what they're going to go for. It's
a
Varus mid lane. It's
there
an
we go.
AP Varus
Even
mid lane
different.
from Haichao. Who needs to put Gala on the Aphelios when you can put LPC on the Aphelios? And now LNG, there's no way they were expecting this, right?
Especially because you have the Azir Poppy combination. I don't think they should have expected that as much, because I don't mind Varus into Azir. If we're going to talk about historical Azir players, historical Azir counter was always poke Varus right the way back to 2015. This was the first counter to that champion in his initial run in pro play, but playing that into Poppy that can gank you so often and combo up with the Azir wall as well, kind of get the wall slam into the Emperor's Divide, is very, very dangerous. And suddenly LNG go, okay, we're not laning into a Varus bot lane. He's really difficult to lane against in bot lane. That opens up the AD carry options for Gala. Gala now has a pretty okay bot lane matchup to scale up and not fall as far behind as they did in game 2.
Let's see how this one's going to go. I honestly have no idea how this one's going to go now. AP Varus in the mix. It certainly does well into the Azir, right? Like, it's kind of similar vibe to Xerath, where even though Azir has that long range, get outranged by the piercing arrows. We'll see. We'll see. I'm looking towards Tarzan as well, who's bringing out the Poppy jungle, which I feel like has increased in priority over the last sort of month or two. Doesn't necessarily have the most dashes on the enemy team. Like, does it block Twisted Advance? Because you're untargetable, right? For Meteor.
No, it won't stop Maokai W, of course. It'll stop anything like a Gale Force, the Leap Strike, and then the Stand Behind Me for the Brawling to Witness. We've seen a couple in the last few weeks as well. It feels like we have, you know, one a week every so often. We're above that margin this week. We already had IG takedown JDG. We've had a couple of huge games throughout the very end of our split. It's coming up to a close. We've got a couple of series left for each team. And if LGD were to bring out a another game like that here, another series like that, it would just be capping off the start of another crazy week of LPL.
It really would. And I feel like, honestly, I know we always say, like, it's been crazy and all that, but this split, we've had so many wacky weeks. We've had so many wacky results coming out. I feel like there's been so many top team versus bottom teams. 2 gold earned by Decade there. It's going to stop fishing, though. Not looking for any more.
That is the test of any true great video game. Can you fish? It was a there was
that and can you pet the dog?
Can you pet the dog? Can you fish? I remember, so like I think it was either like a Starfield or Star Citizen panel or something like that, and someone genuinely asked the question, like, you can do all of this cool stuff. You can fly spaceships, you can go into combat, you can colonize worlds and whatever, but can you fish? And the guy goes, no, sorry, we hadn't thought of that one. It was just completely stumped them. Always have to keep that in mind, folks.
Well, Jack certainly can, so he's living his RPG dream right now. We've got a Jinx versus a Felios in the bottom lane.
It's come back to this.
I was going to say I can't remember the last time I saw that. I can remember it because we saw it a billion times across the course of this year, over the course of spring, even at the start of this split. But it vanished. It completely vanished. Jinx almost vanished off the face of the earth in the LPL. And with enough bans and with enough AD carries being taken to the mid lane instead, I guess, we finally get the Jinx versus... I feel like weirdly, like, at home almost. Like, it's weirdly nostalgic, even though it was only a couple of months ago.
I think what happened was, particularly with the Shiv coming through and the ability to kind of push out as Jinx being contested, because like Jinx doesn't need Shiv for wave clear, but she's kind of used to being uncontested in wave clear at 1.5 items. She just lost her unique place in the meta, despite the reset potential being there. We saw occasional games of it, but it definitely wasn't as uncontested as we saw in certain aspects. I wonder if in the next few patches we'll see Jinx making a comeback with Shiv being less prevalent. There's a chance that comes back, especially with the fellows being taken off of the board as well. Feels like Jinx might be one of the few remaining hyper carries of our existing ones in meta right now.
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, Elk is going to be praying for that.
Yeah.
Elk is, like, sat at home every night praying to his Jinx altar, and then it comes back into the meta. He was absolutely insane on the pick at MSI. But we'll see if that's going to happen. Gala certainly has had his highlights on the pick over the years, as Meteor has finished his pathing, finishes clear at least, up towards this top side. But Zika knows that timing, drops a ward into the river as Decade looks to start the trade, but Counter-Strike just going to hit the wave. Meteor's being patient with it, though. Maybe we'll find a way in again as Decade continues to spar. Meteor, not sure if he wants to go for this one, decides to back away and go to Crooks.
Tries to bait out the slice and dice. If that's down, much higher chance of a kill on towards topside. But can't make it happen. Zika has the built-up wave and takes a decent amount of damage off of Decade. Meteor's going to go back to the Krogs, probably take himself scuttle on that top side as well, and return about his merry business. We have, however, reached late game Poppy already, because all of the basic abilities have been hit for Tarzan. And that's all you need on this champion. People think it's about the ultimate. No, it is not about that. It is just about hitting level 3, then making an absolute mess of the map. So now, eyes on Tarzan. He's the strongest person on the map for the time being. We'll revisit that question a little bit later on, but very interested to see how Tarzan can get things going for a team that typically doesn't explode the map that much early in summer.
No, not typically. They have been a team that's been known to play a little bit slower. Tarzan up to this top side, though, and look, Zika has got Decade so low. This constant sparring between the top laners sets up for a potential dive. The wave already under the tower, though. There's only 3 casters remaining. This feels tough to dive, to be honest, and I think, yeah, Tarzan sees better of it. Decides to back away in the end as the wave will crash, it will reset, and Decade will go in. Forces Zika away, but doesn't quite find a summoner.
Many a top jungle duo has been caught out by Counter-Strike under turret with that kind of wave state. Decade, as long as he managed to get his passive up with the extra attack speed, would be a real threat to those 2 champions under turret. And even the late game Poppy cannot threaten the Jax under that tower. Tarzan, in fact, going to be using a minion taxi to get towards the bottom side of the map, stopping Meteor from getting a potential invade on towards those Raptor second spawns. We do see that Haichao has started to get the push in towards mid lane as well. We'll have to see if this builds towards a Shiv in that mid lane. Of course, with the Comet, you're not looking for an auto-attack centric build, so it wouldn't be something like a Nash's Tooth on the Varus. This could actually be a AD Varus.
Could be lethality.
Could be going towards the more lethality because it has that Comet in inventory. Sometimes we'll see of course, the Halo Blades or Lethal Tempo on something a bit more AP / on hit related.
I mean, back in like 2020, 2021, this was the standard 8 runes for lethality Varus, even in bottom lane. LGD starting the Drake off. Tarzan's trying to move in, dives into the fray here and sets up Gala for the kill. Gets the Drake, gets out with his life, and now JinJiao stunned up and will be finished off. That's 2 kills for Gala.
Oh, that is huge for LNG. They have not been the most successful early game team in this series or really in this split, but getting gold onto your AD carry, that is a welcome blessing for the team which was assumed to be favorites coming into this match. But after game 2, we had to question things. It's a good amount of gold early.
Certainly is. Tarzan gonna Hex Flash it and just help push the wave in here to try and get a reset for Scout. As Haichao quite aggressive here. If he has his ultimate available, that WQ really will Shrek someone. And I think LNG realizing that's not a fight that they want to take anymore.
Walks up, gets a couple of those Blighted Quiver stacks that are even just the first rank of the W, empowering that Q. Does so much damage when you get huge amounts of stacks up. Bit of an awkward fight at the start, it felt like, from LNG, but at the end of the day, they don't need the wall stun if it gets them close, gets the first target at low HP in front of your AD carry for them to reset on the Jinx. So Gala taking that care package with absolute aplomb.
I mean, I misspoke slightly earlier. It turns out Hung actually snuck an auto in at the end there to take one of those kills. Either way, Gala with a kill and an assist, he'll still be happy with how that first Dragon fight's gone. Not to mention the fact that LNG also got that first Drake for themselves. So really, really nice start for them. Azir is, for now, chilling in the mid lane. The straight dirt coming on through, confirming it will be that lethality Varus for Haichao. You've got to be looking towards Scout, and we've got to be looking towards whether or not Haichao can land those arrows in the laning phase, because if he can, this lane can become very difficult for Azir.
And do, especially with flash down on Scout, you can't like reaction flash away from the ultimate, and even when you've got soldiers down, it can be a bit awkward trying to reaction WE to shuffle your way out of the chains of corruption. On the other side though, if Haichao does overstep, and as you can see right now, there's currently a Poppy in his lane. What's up in the top lane?
I love how these two top laners, every time they see each other, both just mash R and start autoing. Decade flashes away. Zika's there to flash onto him again. We saw it in game 2. We see it again in game 3. Zika wins out the 1v1.
Not even close. He's so high HP after this as well that there's no real recompense. That's an ult in onto Meteor.
Oh, Meteor, you're gone for. You're done on this one. Zika grabs the second one. It's like a bonus kill off the back of the 1v1 as Scout just tees him up, knocks Meteor into the air for Zika to bash it into a home run.
Wow, I mean, that's just bonus round, bonus kill, bonus everything for Zika, who's very far ahead of this matchup now. Couldn't make it last game. Ult put towards bot side. Don't think it's going to lead to much. Haichao now on the roam, trying to match Scout, what Scout did towards top side, but doesn't find the angle.
No, full respect from LNG there. They know that their jungler is on the top side. Scout is like, hey guys, Haichao, he ain't here right now. Back away. And they will just give that full respect over for now. Gala, nice little dodge there. Feels like Gala's kind of woken up after that previous game. Had a really, really tough time, was heavily focused by LGD. Game number 3, he's looking on fire.
We had a couple of close 1v1s in this matchup in the previous game, which went the way of Zika. Happens again here. Yeah, I mean, he just eats every single ability from an ulting Renekton. Doesn't manage to block out nearly enough damage. Doesn't get to block out the W, importantly. Goes down, and suddenly 2 kills to the Renekton. I think you're now going to reach a breaking point where the Jax is going to very much struggle to contest even the most simple of wave trades.
Yeah, LPC, he's going to struggle here, isn't he? He's not got the range advantage. He's certainly not got the health advantage right now. But I don't think Gala can just relentlessly push here. Does have to respect the fact that Meteor could be in the area. As Hung tries to make a play towards the mid lane, but I don't think they'll find their window. And, you know, I keep on saying about Azir can struggle against these ranged mid laners. It's not felt like that's been in play. He's only 6 CS down, and we've not been suddenly panning over to the mid lane and, you know, scouts and half his HP. I might just be wrong about that matchup. Maybe that's a Xerath only thing.
No, you're completely right. And again, historically, Varus has always done well against Azir, even back to 2015. The problem is the jungle matchup. Maokai can't help this matchup, especially early, and the Poppy is an absolute monster. Which means that, as we've seen, Poppy can just use E to minion taxi across mid and continually be in that mid lane. Haichao's never really had that 1v1, but when they locked in the Varus, and especially when they flexed it as well, they knew this would be the situation. They knew it would be the mid jungle, which really makes you question the value of this pick, and why didn't you just keep it towards bot side where LPC had such a good history on Varus as well. It's a very comfortable champion for him. LGD, maybe again overthinking the draft a little bit and trying to unlock this Azir counter, which they haven't quite perfected in regards to the rest of the champions that has to be facing on the road.
LNG moving in to try and contest the Drake here. 2K on the objective as a TP comes in behind LGD here. The knockups are there though, and Scout actually having to just dip. Drake taken by Meteor as well. It's perfect for LGD, but Tarzan, he ain't done with this play just yet. Looking for the stun against the wall. Gala's there to follow up with the Kraken Slayer already finished. He will shred these health bars. Haichao down. JinJiao next to the resets are there. LPC does get 2 to answer it, but Gala will finish the job with 3. It's an AD carry dip here, the gold diff in favor of LNG, and he can charge into that bottom lane.
I think Gala's taken that AD carry diff from game 2 a little bit personally. Had to sit on the end of a very difficult laning phase in early game against LPC's Xayah in game number 2, which came through to a game-breaking lead. He's the one with a game-breaking lead now, though, on this Jinx in the deciding game. Scout goes back to base, buys himself up a crown of the Shattered Queen, and it does save his life technically on that teleport in. Not really sure how much value he'll get off of that in this game, but at least for this play, it draws a lot of ultimates and a lot of firepower from the side of LGD, which they no longer have to shut down Gala. LPC gets a good amount of turnaround damage, but it's just not onto the Jinx, which means that Jinx gets to go reset, get up that lethal tempo stacks. Absolute monster of the fight afterwards.
Yeah, I thought Gala was going to try and overextend for JinJiao halfway through that fight, and I was a little nervous for him. That isn't a Fearness you're up against. In the meantime, Zika, 3 plates taken in the 1v1, obviously getting that solo kill earlier, and ever since, he has been dominating the matchup. The crown finished off for Scout as well, which will help him out, as you can see, like the perfect timing there on the statement, as it'll just kind of soak up an initial arrow. Ult comes out. Oh, and the dodge from Meteor, or at least good timing from him. As an arrow comes out onto Scout once again, but Tarzan is just winning this one. Scout playing at maximum range. The Q comes in, the rocket blocked by Haichao. And LGD just about get out with their lives.
Close run stuff. You can see the Maokai issue, which Azir can fall into. You need to ult late enough to tank up the W and then get him away from you. It's very hard to ult away the Maokai before he's cast his W, so Meteor winning out on that mind game, and luckily enough, Tarzan once again comes to the rescue, and that's why this matchup hasn't gone the way of LGD, the way they would have liked it to. Tarzan's just permanently been babysitting mid. It's the right decision. It's been getting a lot of value and it's allowed Scout to get to a point where he is relevant. He's got plates down in mid lane as well. And now look if LNG can get themselves a second Herald. If they can get second Herald, that mid lane turret is absolutely toast, and I'm very much wondering after that point what Haichao can do. Again, Tarzan is doing exactly the right thing, not letting Varus have a 1v1 lane against this Azir.
I mean, Azir was nothing to do with that. That was Tarzan having a 1v1 lane against Haichao and getting a flash out from him. Ghostblade now finished off. And I will say, as Decade is in a bit of trouble here. Tarzan, yeah, he's just going to flash. Wow. So Tarzan walks in mid, forces Haichao to flash in a 1v1, and then walks up top. Zika's done all of the work and just strolls in for a kill.
It's late game Poppy. He has all of his basic abilities. He doesn't need anything else. Doesn't even need his ultimate. It's crazy what this champion can do with just the basic kit from jungle. And now LPC caught out on the spot side. That's a deep teleport. I don't think he's getting out of this one.
He's just going to try and run down the tower. In fact, he hadn't even seen the TP coming in just yet. Didn't have vision that far up in the lane. Zika will finish that. No! Just tease it up for Gala to get the kill. And now the rest of the team was trying to move over to save him. Oh, Gala nearly dodges the ult from Haichao, but it just caught him on the corner. Tarzan He don't need no reinforcements. He'll just charge forward with his hammer, then ease away to the minion wave to escape. Oh, it's immaculate from LNG.
Oh, okay. Hands up who's missed Tarzan being on form. This player, when he has agency in a game, we saw it on Spring, on something like an Elise, or even the Maokai back in Spring as well. He was doing incredibly strong things, but he's having a great game here in Game 3 when his team needs him so much. He has been such an impact on the Poppy. Gonna get that second Herald, and this is where the game falls apart from LGD. The gold's already out of control. You are definitely losing a mid lane tower out of this as well, I think, with the second Herald. And if you lose that mid lane outer turret when you've got 280 carries that want to be kind of trading places and wave clearing out in that mid lane, it's going to be very difficult to restabilize the map. I don't think there's any coming back from this in a traditional macro sense. I think LGD now, they're in such a difficult spot because they're looking for mistakes from LNG, but they don't have the damage yet. They don't have the positioning on the map to force LNG into bad positions. And it's going to get towards that point where you're just hoping that there's a mistake large enough around Baron that can get you back into the game. I
love how Tarzan is just on a support hype train right now. Like, we saw his Situati earlier, just full support items. Felt similar in game number 2 as well, and now on the Poppy, goes for that shielding across his team. He's very much playing for his carries here, not bothered about being too big of a frontline, especially when you've got a Renekton as well alongside you. I mean, to be fair, like, the support items, it's not like you don't get tanky at all.
Certainly, they're pretty good, they're pretty efficient, and they're cheap. They're very cheap as well on the whole compared to many others. I mean, we saw stuff like the Radiant Virtue being built for a while, and that was kind of half-half support because it was a bit more expensive. Stuff like this, very economic, great power spike, helps you get ahead of the game, and LNG are more than ready to fight.
Herald in pocket as well. Tarzan, we'll see where he drops that as the third Drake is up onto the map, and a TP going to come through from Scout as he crashes a massive wave on that top tier 2. This is a huge economic win for LNG, even if we just sit here in the river for a little while now, as they will start the Drake off. One thing Varus is very good at is stealing these objectives with the WQ, but the poke is winning out for LNG for now. Roots across the team here as Hung just going to find a hook here. Flashes away to safety himself. Wait, is the Dragon going to finish Hung off? In the meantime, LPC trying to get out of that one. Hung will survive the Drake. LPC out with 1 HP as Zika chases them down. He's done over 2,000 across the course of that fight. And Decade just kind of wandering around the jungle. Wants to try and make a play, wants to get in, but there's just no way.
Yeah, it does like 2,200 damage, 2,100 of which is all of Felios, who's sat there going, what the heck, what can I do against Zika on that Renekton? Does a great job of zoning out LPC from any position in which he can do damage. So LNG walk away with the Dragon, they walk away with that mid lane outer turret, and LGD, I really don't know how they restabilize this game. Champions like Aphelios and Varus, they need to be pushing lanes and be having a like a full court press to go into the enemy jungle, secure vision, and secure themselves their own positioning, right? It's very hard to position safely against something like a Poppy when you don't have that mid lane outer turret. What do you do here?
Well, Tarzan just going to flash on in to find yet another kill for Gala, who has 5 on the board now. Like, he was so far behind in the previous game, and I feel like the whole gang has just been like, right, let's get some kills for Gala. Like, even the kill where Zika TPs onto LPC and just sets up for Gala's ultimate to get the kill as well. Like, I feel like they are fully leaning in to the Jinx being the carry.
Tarzan, buddy!
It's just cyberbullying.
This is great. I love this because our complaint from our criticism of LNG in Game 2 was they overcomplicated things. How much simpler does it get than Poppy just see hero, kill hero, press your basic abilities? He's doing it doing it again!
Yeah, he doesn't even need to acknowledge that there's a tower there, just strolling past it as he runs a Decade. Tower will be finished off. That's a tier 2 with 19 minutes in, and look at the presence that LNG have across the entire map. LPC is trying to answer with a tier 1 in the top side, but that means no AD carriers available. LNG don't have to respect the rest of LGD.
This is a wow, Scout.
Talk about not respecting them. He dives under the tower. Scout, with a stopwatch, keeps himself alive, gets out of tower range before the roots come on in. And JinJiao forced away from the play. Meteor can't really get involved. And in the meantime, Zika has found his way onto LPC in the picture-in-picture. The fight is kicking off in mid, and Gala's completely fine. This is absolute slaughter
The gold lead has absolutely exploded. LGD are never going to financially recover from this one, I don't think. The gold's in pockets, the Baron will be there shortly afterwards. LNG, this is the team which we know they can be. Very difficult game 2, overcomplicated things with game 3, putting a lot of those worries to rest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's certainly one way to finish out a series after a rough second game, isn't it? Coming in with confidence here for game number 3. LPC just staying a little bit too long, and we've all seen this tape before, haven't we? We've all seen the Renekton versus Aphelios 1v1, and it doesn't often go well for Aphelios.
It's a full level advantage. Like, that's so many extra stats, and now this is the difference, solo queue top laners, between emoting at the start of the game and not. Zika is just down to business this game. Gets his individual leads in game 2, but he kind of messes around a little bit and he gets absolutely dunked later into the game. None of that this game. All business, all solo kills.
Yeah, and the problem is, oh no, Scout, he's found another one. Decade will jump out. Meteor's here as well, so I don't think he can do much more on this one. Haichao still hasn't finished off that Muramana yet. He's got his tier stacked, but he's not actually finished the item because he's been put so far behind. So this lethality virus, I mean, it's meant to be a win early champion. It's meant to be domination in the lane, leading to objectives. We have not seen that, and it becomes like when you're behind on lethality virus, I mean, you just feel useless. You're like a bound up cannon minion. That's about all the value you're adding.
You have no way to defend against the engage from LNG either. It's really difficult. Again, if you lose out these lanes, like you're saying, you don't get to push in waves, you don't get to kind of stop LNG from ever having the HP bars for him to engage onto you. You're defending your inhibitors at 22 minutes in. It's such a huge gold lead. You have to just wonder, why didn't they just give LPC the Varus again and look for another champion mid lane? Looks like it's backfired miraculously.
Yep, LNG looking good as they zone everyone away, using that Baron buff. LGD trying to find the fight onto Tarzan here. He does go down, but it's in trade for Meteor. The rest of the team forced away as well. Zika winning his 1v1, and he wants a little bit more than a 1v1. Jumps over the wall with a blast cone. The rest of the team over the wall to help him out. The solo laners charge in, and it'll be a mid-inhib taken here, or at minimum the tower. They can look up towards that top side again as well. Still 45 seconds on this Baron buff.
Making the full use of it, and despite it being the 1-for-1 and a shutdown going in, the amount of ults used is quite dangerous.
Scout knocks him over the wall and follows him as well. Decade thought he had the pick, but he was the picked. JinJiao gonna trade his life as LPC being chased down by Gala. Can't quite close the gap there. Top inhib will go down. Mid inhib will be finished off by Zika as well. And LNG, yes, they lost a couple of players in this extended siege, but ultimately every time they just traded the opposite man.
They have done, and again, after the first fight, LGD didn't have the ultimates to keep fighting. LNG, they have so much raw damage on the Azir and on the Jinx at this point. They don't need those ultimates quite as much. Of course, they still had the Emperor's Divide. That will certainly help them out. LNG, they get to wreck a couple of inhibs, they get to reset, they get to go towards their Infernal Dragon, which is spawned on the map. I don't think we're getting towards Soul, folks, and if it has, it'll probably be just LNG winning that fight as well. The gold difference is absolutely monolithic in this game, and with those resets, it's all been spent now as well. Going back towards the replay, we're going to go towards one of these plays. It's the second play. The first fight had already happened, but, Scout didn't have to blow his ult in the initial fight where Tarzan goes down towards that top lane. Side of LGD's base, so Scout gets to go through so much damage, man. Azir is hit critical mass.
Yeah, not going for the attack speed based Azir either, just pretty much straight up AP. Well, I say that, pretty much straight up defenses. But as far as AP items go, going for the Zhonya's, going for the crown, and then going towards, by the looks of things, a Wit's End as the third item here. But Gala already on those 3 items as well. We have hit the 2-item mark for the lethality virus, so that's nice for LGD.
That's quaint. That's very quaint, Munch. Tell me more of the stories of the Varus. I haven't seen him this game.
It's about the small wins at this point because they ain't getting any big ones because Scout is on the scene. The solo lanes of LGD shred through the health bars as Gala's there to finish everyone off. Decade with a ward hop to dodge away from the zap. He wants to survive, but can he? The counter-strike comes in. The ultimate's blasted out Gala. He did an attack click onto the cannon behind him. And it means Decade will survive. It doesn't matter. 23-5. Is LNG. I mean, they know how to finish out series.
I mean, if you ignore game 2, that was a great clean series from LNG, you know, absolutely dominant.